Before we get too deep into this topic, I have to say this at the very beginning just so people don't get mad. This is one of those things that, in a vacuum, isolated away from the rest of the league and what happens afterwards, this is a pretty bad move. And that in particular is the angle I wanted to talk about here, because yes, I know Carolina Hurricanes fans, you guys aren't really too down on yourselves right now because Freddy Anderson is here and he has been absolutely phenomenal. We're going to be highlighting that towards the end of the video here, but when it comes to just the individual trade we're discussing, in a vacuum, you gotta admit this was a pretty weird move, so it still continues to blow my mind day after day thinking about the Detroit Red Wings and the goaltending situation they have right now. You take a look at the Red Wings and what they had previously. They had themselves a tandem of Bernier and Greiss in 2020-2021, and to be fair, that tandem wasn't really all too bad. Jonathan Bernier posted up a .914 and a .299, and Thomas Greiss had even better numbers over there, as he had a .912 and a .270. So it was a pretty good tandem that this team was rolling with, even though the Red Wings were a pretty bad team. You know, all the problems that plagued the Red Wings over the past few seasons. Oh, they're too young. Oh, their top guys aren't producing. Oh, their defensemen can't move the puck. It's this, it's that, it's the other thing. One thing that was not a problem last year for Detroit was goaltending. And so, when you take a look at what Steve Yzerman did to drastically change the scope of this goaltending tandem into 2021-2022, it made a lot of people kind of perk their ears up and say, okay, what the hell? For context, Jonathan Bernier, who had been on the wing since 1819, had been in the last year of his contract in 2020-2021. There wasn't really any certainty amongst the fans or the media or whatever that he would actually re-sign with Detroit, and so a lot of Red Wings fans were kind of thinking, okay, do we keep Bernier? Do we give the net full-time to Greiss because he was pretty good? Do we try to trade away a Bernier? Do we do this? Do we do that? Whatever, because Bernier had been with this team for a while. There is somewhat of an emotional attachment there because he has been playing the past few seasons and he wasn't terrible on this team that was terrible in front of him. So now that he's in the last year of his deal, you don't really know if you're going to keep him around or if he's going to want to stick around or anything. So what are the Red Wings going to do? Because of this entire conundrum going on, when Steve Yzerman traded Jonathan Bernier, heck, not even Bernier, but the rights to signing Jonathan Bernier to the Carolina Hurricanes on July 22nd, it made things super intriguing when you take a look at what they received. Because the full trade went as follows. The Carolina Hurricanes acquired goaltender Jonathan Bernier, or the rights to Jonathan Bernier, as well as a third-round pick in the 2021 NHL Entry Draft from Detroit, in exchange for Alex Nedeljkovic. Now, Alex Nedeljkovic in his own right was also on an expiring contract. He didn't have a contract for 21-22, 2020-2021 was his last year of his entry-level deal. He was making $737,000. But it's not the money that we really care about over here with Nedeljkovic, it's the body of work that he had. He was drafted by the Carolina Hurricanes all the way back in 2014 in the second round, and ever since then he has been developing as a Carolina Hurricanes prospect, seen as one of the better goaltending prospects in the league, and it took him a really long time to actually develop into an NHL caliber player, but once that time did come and he graduated from the Charlotte Checkers AHL team, boy oh boy, was Alex Nedeljkovic a stud. 2020-2021, his last year of his entry-level contract, was the first full-time year that he had in the NHL. And in 23 games played for Carolina, he posted up a .190 goals against and a .932 save percentage. 3 shutouts, 15-5-3, and in the playoffs, even though some would like to say that he could have been better, which I don't really think is an unfair assessment to make, he still put up a .920 and a .217 in the 9-game sample he had. Again, he could have been better, but he could have been a lot worse too, especially considering the fact that this was a full-time rookie goaltender. He was so good that he was a finalist for the Calder Trophy Award, which is awarded to the NHL's Rookie of the Year, behind Robertson and behind Kaprizov. But because he was an expiring asset, the Carolina Hurricanes fan base was kind of intrigued as to seeing how Don Waddell would go about with these negotiations. There was a lot of rumors coming about when it comes to how Carolina would want to go out there and pay this guy, if they would be willing to go to a significant dollar amount, because he was really good. Don't get me wrong, he was definitely worth any amount of money the Carolina Hurricanes could have thrown at him. But the Hurricanes, instead of trying to go down that path and negotiate a contract with this guy, they were just like, okay, sorry, we'll sign Jonathan Bernier instead. We'll trade Nedeljkovic, who was a really, really top-of-the-line goaltender who was only 25 years old, for a Jonathan Bernier who is 33, who is just coming off of a stint where he's playing on one of the worst teams in the league. And we'll get that third-round pick as well. We'll sign Bernier to a cheap contract. That's what people were saying they might be thinking about doing. But guess what? They didn't do that. They took the third-round pick. Okay, great. They got themselves a guy in the draft. But guess what they did with that Jonathan Bernier? They didn't even sign him. They let him go to free agency. The Carolina Hurricanes, pretty much, if you take a look at the end result of where these assets went, traded away the best rookie goaltender in the NHL, who happened to be a very legit starter with really great numbers, for a third-round pick and a guy that they let walk. It was essentially just Nedeljkovic for a third. And you take a look at the way the Carolina Hurricanes did not want to go out there and spend the money. Nedeljkovic, heading over to Detroit, signed a 2-year contract with a $3 million AAV. That is not expensive whatsoever for the caliber of goaltending that Nedeljkovic provides. And the Carolina Hurricanes went out there and they're like, okay, yeah, we don't want to pay that. We'll spend that extra money on a Freddy Anderson instead, who has come over here on a pretty big deal. He's making $4.5 million a season for the next year and a bit. And even though Anderson has been really good, and this is kind of why I'm saying that holistically, I don't really think Carolina Hurricanes fans are all too upset with what happened with their goaltending, considering, I mean, Anderson has a .930 and a .193 in 21 games played. He's been fantastic right here. He has won 16 out of the 21 games that he has started so far. Even though their goaltending is great, in a vacuum, the Detroit Red Wings went out there and absolutely fleeced the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, maybe there's some extra context behind it that I haven't uncovered in this video. Maybe there's some off-ice issues, or there's this and there's that made it undesirable for the Carolina Hurricanes to keep this kind of player around, which is why they felt it was okay to go out there and trade him away for a guy they ended up letting walk and only a third-round pick. Maybe there's some other stuff going on behind the scenes that I haven't talked about, but you know what? Just the way Yzerman responded to this trade immediately after it went down, you can kind of just get the vibes off of that. Here's the quote. Red Wings GM Steve Yzerman acquired Alex Nedeljkovic from the Hurricanes. Why did Carolina let him go? You'll have to ask them why they were comfortable doing that. I don't know, Yzerman said. And this is kind of the reason why, whenever I think about hypothetical trades or I try to assess where a team could be and what they could do, my mind always defaults to, okay, don't trade with the Red Wings. Don't have a conversation about Steve Yzerman, because if you go down and do that, you're just going to end up embarrassing yourself by the time a trade gets done. And Yzerman going out there and saying straight up, yeah, I don't know why they traded away this guy for Bernier and a third. You're going to have to go out there and ask them. Maybe Carolina was just playing some pretty big 3D chess, you know, rooftop checkers, underwater basket weaving. Maybe they were going out there and big braining this the entire way. Okay, if we give up on Alex Nedeljkovic and let this guy go to, I don't know, free agency because we don't tender his contract, then everybody's going to laugh at us because we didn't get anything back. Let's just get Bernier and a third. We can get that third because it'll be worth something at the very least. We'll let Bernier walk and we'll use the extra savings to get Freddy Anderson and sign him to a contract that is only $1.5 million more than what the Wings gave Nedeljkovic in the first place. Maybe you could have done that route and just tried to say it was for the sake of being big brain, but I'm not really too sure if that's the capacity that Don Waddell would have been able to perceive, especially with all the factors involved. Like, you don't know for sure Freddy Anderson is going to sign with you, so just making that bet in the first place is a really, really big risk. And that argument doesn't even really fit because you could have had an RFA bidding war with an offer sheet for Nedeljkovic, right? This guy is an RFA, he would have been. So, man, it doesn't make sense. This is why I'm making this video. More and more, as I think about this trade, it continues to make less and less sense towards my psyche and my approach to evaluating these trades. I mean, Nedeljkovic this season is doing really well, too. He's got a .916 and a .278. Sure, he's on Detroit, but he's gone out there and actually done pretty well for a guy on this team. And that's just kind of why it's so weird, man. Talk to me in the comments, what do you think about the Nedeljkovic trade and whether or not it still kind of makes you feel the same way that I'm feeling right now when trying to evaluate everything, because it's just such a strange trade in a vacuum. Again, Hurricanes fans, I know you don't really care anymore. You guys want to see the best out of Nedeljkovic, and you guys want to see the best out of Freddy Anderson too, but this trade in isolation what a bad one. Talk to me in the comments, all your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this. Mr. Ash Rolls 99. And bye.